Hello and welcome to this session. So in this session, we look at some of the operators. Okay, so what are operators? Basically, when we write a select statements, right? So we can select the columns, we can select the required columns, or we can select all the columns using star. But there are certain operations that we can do. For example, if you want to add two columns, or if you want to subtract one column with the another columns, and if you want to apply some other operations, we can do that. So we will discuss what those operations are. So first, the arithmetic operations. So arithmetic operations, as you can see, basically the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, right? So you can add two columns, or you can add two numbers, or you can just add one column with another number. So all these operations are possible using a select statement. So you can see in the example, like here is select customer ID plus one. So what we are doing is we have the customer ID and then we are adding one value to it, right? So similarly, subtraction, multiplication, division, right? So where this can be used, like for example, if you want to add one day to a date, right, to check like what is the next day. So those kind of operations are common in the database. So we use the arithmetic operations there. So very simple concept. Like you can see the example here, like you just adding, deleting, or adding plus one, or subtracting, or adding multiplication and division, right? So that's the arithmetic operators. Okay. So next we have is comparison operators. So if you want to compare, right? So let's say if I want to compare if my customer ID is having certain values. So that is basically comparison. You're comparing it. You can compare uh, the values here. So let's say equal to basically tells you like what value should be equal to. Like for example, here I'm saying customer ID is equal to 1,000. So basically I would only want those records where customer ID is 1,000. Then you can use not equal to as well. So not equal to basically says anything that is not equal to this. So in this case, I'm saying, hey, bring me all the values where customer ID is not equal to 1,000. So you can use both of this. It can be like this, or you can use these two brackets. Then of course, greater than or greater than equal to. So again, if you want something greater than, let's say 1,000, then we use it. If you want to apply equal to, so basically greater than 1,000 will give you all the values from 1,001. But if you want to include 1,000, you should say greater than or equal to. Similarly, less than or equal to, like if you want to include the a customer ID, which is like less than 1,000, so you should use less than or equal to just to include the 1,000. Otherwise, you just use less than 1,000 if you don't want to include it, right? So these are very basic things, right? Something that normal English, okay? Uh, in is basically is used like in this case, right? For example, if I want to check for a customer whose name is James, okay? So I will say customer name equal to James. But imagine I want to also check customer name either is James or it's Matthew or it's Robin, right? So I have three. So what I'm saying is the customer name can be James, or it can be Robin, or it can be some other value. So in that case, we basically use in operator. So in operator is basically saying whatever values that you put, it can be equal to any of those. That is what in is. Not in is basically the opposite of it. So whatever values that you have mentioned here, if it is if this data is not in this, only then return those values, right? So that's the concept of in and not in. All right. So then we have something called as between. So between is everything between two values. So let's say I want everything between 10 and 20. So whatever the values are between 10 and 20, those values will come. Like is a very important operator. So let's say if we have something where we know there are customers whose name starts with James, right? So it can be James Matthew, James this, James that, whatever value, right? But I only want to check. I only know the part of the name. So in that case, what I can use a like, which is a match operator. So matching it, it's not an equal to operator. You don't have to match everything. You'll say like, oh, if if the name starts with James, I want all the records. Or if the name ends with James, I want all the records. Or if the name starts with J, I want all the records. So all those operations can be done, performed using a like operator. Okay. Then we have is null, is not null, right? So null, as I mentioned earlier, it's you only use to check the existence. Is there a value? Is it null or is it not null? So that is the only concept where we use the null or is not null. Okay. So that's the comparison operators. Then we have logical operators. So logical operators, we have three: and, or, not. Okay. So very important. So if you want to filter the records and if you want to ensure that you have more than one condition and if you want all that condition to be satisfied. So let's say I want the data where the customer's value is 10 and the order status is delivered. So these are two conditions. So in these two conditions, you can put an and condition which says like both the conditions should be satisfied, only then I want the result. So that is all. So I said two conditions. You can use as many conditions as you want. You just have to include an and in between. Or is basically if you have multiple condition, it at least one of this condition is true, then you can get the record. So here in this case, I'm saying that hey, either the customer gender is M or the customer state is this value. So if I have a record where the customer gender is M, I will get this record. I don't have to check this because it's an or condition. Either one of this should be true. Not is basically negate. So it's like, here I'm saying not in this tools. So this state, whatever the customer data that I have, the state should not be in Telangana or Gujarat. Only those records will come. So this is basically the logical operators here. Okay. So we have seen arithmetic operators, we have seen the logical operators, we have seen the comparative operators. So let's go ahead and we will execute some queries here and we'll see like how this works. Okay. So now you can use something called as dual, right? So let's say I will start with arithmetic operators. Okay. So very simple. I can say select 1 plus 1 from dual. Okay. So this will give me the data, right? So 1 plus 1 is 12. So I can execute this on the data as well, right? So let's pick one table from here. So select star from what is the table that I want. Okay, let's pick orders. Okay. All right. So now let's pick few values here. So I'm going to say order ID. Okay. Then I can say order date, right? So now what I'll see is order ID, I will add +1, order 1. Order date also, I will add +1, order date. So what I'm doing here is like I'm selecting order ID, order date. Then for order ID, I am adding one value and calling it as order 1. For order date, I'm adding one values and calling it order date. So what will happen here is, so you have the order 495, right? So order ID. Now here for order 1, I'm adding one value. So 414, 495 plus 1, 496, 498 plus 1, 499. So basically I'm adding one. Order date here, see, this is 5/12/25, right? Now I'm adding one value, so it will become 6/12/2025, right? Here 14/4 will become 15/4. So basically I'm adding one value. So similarly, you can use minus operator as well, right here. So it will reduce this to the previous date. So if you want to know like, what is the previous date or what is the current date or what is the next date, so these are basically something that we can add. So, or you can basically, let's say, I want to multiply with 2, right? So order ID, I want to multiply with 2. You can do that. So you can say 499 into 2 is 990. So these are the things that you can actually do, right? So one of the things that usually we do is there are multiple things, right? If you want, let's say, if you want to know if let's say if you want to know if a particular number is basically even or odd, right? So this is not an arithmetic operator, but I just remember that we use this operator in the insert query. So what we do is we say mod, right? So mod basically gives a reminder. So let's say if I do mod 10 comma 2, right? So what is the reminder here is 0, right? So that is what you'll get. Okay. It should be from dual. Okay. So see, it's 2. If I do 10 comma 3, right? So reminder would be 1, right? So this is one of the operators that we can use. Okay. So a lot of these things are basically to kind of check, yeah, let's say if uh, you want to know what is the previous state. All right. Most of these arithmetic operators are basically done on dates. Or if you want to know if a particular number is even or if a day is even or not, so you can use mod. So those are the applications, right? So that is on the arithmetic side. So now we'll look at the comparison operators. Okay, so let's say comparison operators. Okay, so let's pick up something. So let's start from, let's see what are the tables that we have, address, inventory, payment, right? So let's take payment. Okay, let's execute this. So you have payment ID, order ID, payment date, amount, payment status. Okay. So let's, if somebody asks me like, hey, pull me all the data where the payment status is succeeded, right? Success, all the success statements. So I can, what I'll do is I'll write a where clause and say, okay, payment status is equal to success. Okay, so this will give me all the data where the payment status is success. Okay, see, now just remember one thing, this data is case sensitive. So here instead of small, sorry, instead of the capital letters, like everything here is in capital letters, but here let me change this and I say success. It is still success, but if you execute it, it will give me no data because this is case sensitive. So whatever data that you have in, you have to give exactly that character. Okay. In the upcoming sessions we will see how we can control this, like how we will ignore this. So there are operations where you convert this into lower case or upper cases, but that will come at a later point. Okay, so we're talking about the we're talking about the comparison operator. So equal to is one comparison operator, right? So now if I want not equal to, right? So if I want all the status where payment status is not success, so I can use this. So this basically will pull me all the data where the status is not success, like it is failed, pending, but it will not see success. So there you can also use this option as well. So this is also not equal to. So either of this. So most people typically use this because it's much easier, and this is something that most of the people use. But the other one is also something that you can use. Okay, so this is basically not equal to, right? Then you can, if you want to check, let's say the payment ID, right, or the amount. Let's say amount is a good case, right? So if I say select star from payments and I want to only select data where the amount is maybe greater than 10,000, right? So now I can use this greater than 1. So it basically I'm saying that the amount should be greater than 10,000, only those records I want. So you can see this, all this amount are greater than 10,000. Okay, right? Cool. I can also use a less than here. So it will basically give me all the payment which is less than 10,000, right? So also, if I use an equal to, it will also give me the records which is 10,000 as well, right? So you can say less than or equal to 10,000, which means all the records which are less than 10,000 plus 10,000. So that is the value that you will get, right? So this is equal to, less than, equal to, greater than. So some of the operators, right? The other operator we talked about is the in operator, correct? So let me see this. So now, okay, I'm saying that where payment status so is equal to success, right? Now, what if I want both success and failure? I don't want pending, so I want just success and failure. So in that case, what I can do is I here equal to means I can only write one, right? So I will only get one data. But if I want both the or more than one, then I have to use something called as in. So I'll say the payment is either success or in fail. So pull me both the records. So if I execute this, what it will give me is it will give me all the data where the payment status is success or fail. So you will only see success or fail. You will not see pending. So that is the case of in. Now, what is the reverse of it? You just place not in, and it will basically give me the data where it is not success, not failure. Okay, so that's the negation. So not is basically negation. So if you go ahead, so you will only see pending. You will not see success or failed. Okay, that's the concept of not in. Okay. Now, next thing what we will say is in between. Okay. So let's say I want data where the payment is between 1000 and 2000. Okay. So the amount that is spent is basically 1000 and 2000, right? So I can use this payments where amount between 1000 and 2000. Okay. So you can use the between one. So it will give me all the data which is between 1000 and 2000. Cool. You can see here 1000 and 2000. So all the data is between 1000 and 2000. Okay. So this is the concept of between. All right. So what else we have? So we have seen equal to, not equal to, between. Okay. Now let's also look at like operator, right? So like operator basically tells you about basically it's a matching one. So let's pick up something which we can use for this matching. So how about products? Let's look at products. Okay. Okay, I think this is good. So if I do a product, so let's start from products. Okay. Now if you see here, right, product, product, product. So you can see this product, and then there is a space, and then there is some values here, right? So let's say I want those products where product name. Okay. So product name is anything like this. So it should start with like this. So it should be like let's say it should be product, and then it should have a hyphen, then it should have phi, and then it should have this one, and it can have anything after that. Okay, so for that, what we will do is we will basically use a like operator. So we will say like here and say, hey, the product name should be like this. It should be like product underscore. It should be like product underscore 56. After that, it can be anything. So when you say anything, you'll just put this one, right? So it should start like this, and it can have anything. So when I execute this, what will happen is you will see this product 56, right? Everywhere you will see this product 56. After that, it can be anything. Look, we also got product 56, right? So this is a concept of like. So this is basically like, and we will talk about this more. So this is how you do the matching. So now we also, let's say if I do this, right? So I will not get anything here because there is nothing where it starts with this. So similar to the end here, we said it can be like anything, right? So we can also put it here. So which means My product name can start with anything. It should have this and it can end with anything. So this is basically saying my product name should start with anything. It should then have this value and it can again end with anything, right? So if you execute this, you will see the data again. Okay, so that's the importance of this percentile. Okay, now there are other operators to this as well. So we have just seen the percentile, right? So percentile can be like, anything, right? There are other things as well. So we will also there is one more thing called as let me just execute this first, okay? Or let us take another table, right? Maybe this is a good. Oh no, let's only use the Amazon tables. Mm, this category. Yeah, I think payments. Okay, it's initializing something. Let's just wait. Let's just queue or let me just pause it here. Okay, so we are back. It got stuck somewhere, so I had to pause the video. So let's be back. So let's look at payments. Okay, okay. Now let's look at this payment status, right? So payment status, like if I say like this, right? So basically, it means that anything that starts with SUCC and then it can be anything, right? So that is what the like operators is. So this is like no, these are basically used when you do not know the value exactly. It can start with anything or it can end with anything. You just know the pattern, like it will start with like this or it will end with like this. So you can use this. So for example, if you want to identify data where it ends with EWS, right? So you can say like, it just ends with it can start with anything and it ends with EWS, right? So EWS is basically success. So you can basically execute and you will see you will get the same data. So percentile is basically for that, like any number of items, right? There is also one more thing, underscore, which basically says one. Okay, so let's say you're looking at this success, right? So if you are not, if you think like, oh, I don't know whether, let's say this is it, this is the value that I'm looking at where I have this, it will be like this, and it can end with one value. So hyphen is basically end. Hyphen is basically, sorry, this is not hyphen, underscore. Underscore basically say one value. So you are basically saying, oh, it starts with this and it ends with one value only. See, what is the point with what is the difference between this and this? Okay, this. Okay. So let's make use of the dual table. It's much easier. So it says let's select, let's say, okay, I can say root from dual. All right. So, okay, so this is good, right? So now what I'm saying is, let me just put it here, and I will basically say where root equal to apples. Okay. So this is a simple where clause. Uh, oh, This is a dual table, right? So we cannot use this in the dual table. Okay, I don't know what I was thinking. So we'll have to figure out something. So let's just do with let's use some table, right? So let me create one temporary table for this. Create table. So let's call it as EMP1 table name as. So we'll just add two values, employee ID, number, employee uh, name, varchar2, employee, and let's say location. Okay, let's increase this values. Okay. Okay. So I'm creating this temporary table because this is a very important concept. Okay, we got the wrong uh, syntax here. So as it's not available, so yeah, employee table is created. So let me insert some value into this. Insert into EMP1, EMP ID, EMP name, location, values, right? So let's say 10, employee name is John. So let's say location is India. Okay, let's execute this. The name of the column that the value has been inserted into or updated. There is some mistake here. Okay, so we gave the employee ID as just one. Okay, so okay, that is fine. It should have been 10, but okay, let me just change this. I will insert this data. I will also insert one more record here. I'll call it to, let me say James, and here I will say Indiana. Okay. So I'm just adding some random data just to showcase how the difference between the percentile and the hyphen, right? So let's start from EMP1. Okay, let's see. So if I do a where cross where location like I will say India percentile. Okay. So basically what it does is it will look for this India. So it will fetch me this record. It starts with India. It can be anything after that, right? So it will give me this record. It will give me this record, right? So I can execute this. I can get both the records. Now, instead of this, if I basically put this one, right? So what that means is it is basically looking for India. And after that, it says I have one more value. Okay. So if India and it should be one more character. So if I execute this, right? So I won't get anything. Why? Because if you look at this, right? So I have India and Indiana. Okay. So let me copy this here. Okay. India and Indiana. So my query says, okay, you need to fill India and you need to have any one value here. So it can be any one value here. So it can be X, it can be B, it can be A, whatever it is, one. It needs to have one more value here. But here, if you look at this here, three, four, five, six characters, but here it's only five characters. And here it is one, two, three, four, five, six, seven characters. So what it is doing is it is not matching with the pattern. Here it is saying after India it should only have one character, but here I have two characters. So here I can basically, if I put one more here, then it will give me the correct output, right? See, it will give. So the difference between percentile and hyphen is basically for one character. Percentile is can be any number of characters. So that is a basic difference between these two. Okay. Now we'll use the same table here, and we'll look at one more concept called as null, right? So if I do a select star from EMP, and you can see the location, both of them, right? If I want, they are the location is here, right? So if I insert another table, sorry, if I insert into another one, let's say I'll only insert the employee ID. Okay, so I'll say 3. Okay, so let me execute this. I will also let me also execute one more. Okay. Okay, now if you look at this, right? So you can see I don't have the values employee name or employee location, right? For these two records. So if you want to find out the values where the employee, we don't have any values, I'll just say employee name is null. So when I look at this, right, you will see that I find this. Similarly, you can put not. So not basically is a negation. It says that I want records where the employee name is not null, right? So if I execute this, you will find the remaining two records where I have the employee name. So this is a concept of null and not null. All right. So these basically are the operators that we looked at. So we looked at the arithmetic operators and we looked at the comparison operators. Next, we look at the logical operator. Okay, so logical operators basically are something where we use the and or not. Okay, so these are the logical operators. So let's pick up examples from here only. So let's use this payments rate. Okay, so here if you see the payment status success, right? So I can say where payment status equal to success or payment status is equal to fail. See, we can, what this means is like, hey, bring me all that where payment status is success or payment status is failure. So this is basically the or operators. Okay. So if you execute it, you will see success or fail. Now we have seen an example before where you can redo this in another way. So instead of or, so what you can also do is you can use the in operator, right? You can say in, it will also give you the same response or the same data. So it's basically the same. Okay. So instead of or, you can use this. But so now see, there are operators or there are expressions that you can use to produce the same result. So it is important for us to understand all the different ways of generating the same data, so that in some cases one thing works better, in some other cases the other thing. Generally, we always go with the in because it's much easier, right? You just put it in and it's much cleaner, right? Okay. Now the or operator is fine. So and operator basic, then the next is and operator. And operator is basically the two conditions should be satisfied. So here we are saying the payment should be success and payment should be fail. In the same row, if you look at the same row, right, you need a row where the payment should be success and fail. We will not have that, right? Either one of them will be there. So if you execute this, you should not get any data. Okay. Let me select this properly. If you execute this, you should not get any data, right? So what is the best way to apply? So let's say now here I'll say like, I want all the data where payment is failed. Okay. Right. And then what I'll do, and I'll put an and operator and say, and uh, amount is greater than 10,000. So I have two conditions. First one is the payment should be failed. So it will only get me all the failed. And let's say if I have 100 records which are failed, from that 100 records, it will select those where the amount is greater than 10,000. So if you execute this, you will see that all these IDs are failed, but you will also see the amount is greater than 10,000. All right. Okay. Now you can also add another one, right? You can add another and condition, and you will see like, oh, the order ID, let's say the order ID should be greater than 700, or let's say the order ID should be less than 500. Okay. So I can put another, so you can put as many conditions as you want. So if I execute this, this will again filter down. So you will see that you will have less records here, like order ID is less than 500. So you can add as many conditions as you want, right? So that is basically the logical operator and. Okay. Now, earlier we did something between, right? So, you look at this, right? It basically says the amount is between 1000 and 2000. So, you can actually use an operator here, the and operator. Okay. So, where you can say where amount is greater than 1000 and amount is less than 2000, right? So a different way of doing, right? So you need to understand like what are these operators, what is the functionality, then you can use it based on the use case. Okay, so instead of between you can actually use the and operator as well. So and of course like there are many cases which where different operators produce the same output, so you just need to understand like which is the best way. Okay. All right. So we have seen the AND operators. We have seen the OR operators as well. So NOT is basically an operator where you look at this is a negation, right? So uh, you basically say not to negate the thing that you are saying. So if I put not here, it will basically negate this. So instead of success and fail, I will get other values which are not success and fail, right? So which is basically pending. Okay. So these are the things, right? So yeah. So these are basically the operators that I wanted to discuss. These are something which we use very regularly, especially the logical operators or the comparison operators. So understand what they are, like how they are being used, and we will build on this in our next few sessions. So when we write a lot of queries, like if we are generating, if you want to generate a report or something, if you want to identify certain things which the business team wants, so these are the things that will be very useful. So just make sure that you understand this. Uh, it understand this very good. Practice as much as you can, and I'll see you guys in my next class.